Welcome to this Money Monday edition of Liquid Lunch on Newsmax TV. I'm John Tobacco. It is quite the day for it to be Money Monday because our money is under attack. All across the globe, financial markets are collapsing. Governments are taking all kinds of intervention. I hate being right sometimes, but on Friday, I mentioned that a close under 22,000 could be cataclysmic. We could come into another Black Monday down 2,000. We're there now. Again, we were there last week. And if you're keeping track and looking at charts, the next place the market could rest is about 18,000. So stay very careful. And people are asking me over the weekend, hey, you know, John, the market's low. Should I go in? I'm not a financial advisor, but I've been on the short side of the market. So my whole career, I look at things go down. And in my view, it's got more down to go, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's not looking good, and we're facing, you know, all across the country now, especially here in New York. It seems to be becoming one of the epicenters. Schools are closed down. People are not going to work. You name it, it's basically shutting down. Small business owners are being shut down. Bars, restaurants, local places are gathering. The limiting gathering sizes. It's bad. And, you know, for the last year or so, when the markets are down, there was a flight to safety. People would go to cryptocurrency, and you see Bitcoin be like a good alternative. Bitcoin down, oil down, bonds down, everything's down. There's a saying in the markets called the double black swan, where you see a whole school of white swans, and then all of a sudden, once in a while, you see one. It's an anomaly. If you see two, that's what, like insurance companies and risk managers, the double black swan. This is like a fleet of black swans. It's not, can't be accounted for what's happening right now. And for the most part, I have been cynical about it. The whole coronavirus, I'm still kind of cynical. I got a whole bunch of theories out there that I've talked about over the last few months that this was in some way, shape, or form engineered by China to paralyze all of us after the trade deals. And they want to slow down the global economy to cover up for all the problems they have. So I'm still sticking with that, but the fact is they hatched a plan, or the plan were hatched, or someone made a mistake, and now it's everywhere. And now there's more tests coming out, so the numbers will grow. I've been sticking, as you know, my good, loyal viewers. I want to thank every one of you. I try to answer every single email, feedback, everything. I take it all in. I try to put it here. I talk to the team about it. Sadly, I must report, right here in the downtown studios of Liquid Lunch, we have detected one case of corona. It's happened. The corona's here, and odds are at some point we're going to need it. You know, every so often on Liquid Lunch, some of our guests, before they come on or after, they want to calm themselves down. We're still cynical. I'm drinking Corona. I'm using Lysol dual action wipes. I did go out this weekend and load up on all kinds of things. I'm still baffled by the whole toilet paper shortage. It's not making sense to me, but whatever it is, the markets are getting clobbered right now. Fed cuts the rates by zero. Zero. Let's take a look. Well, here was Trump's announcement, and somewhere in the hierarchy, I guess they thought over the weekend this was going to have some significant effect. Here's what they said.
And I want to congratulate the Federal Reserve. For starters, they've lowered the Fed rate from what it was, which was 1 to 1.25, and it's been lowered down to 0 to 0.25 or 0.25. So it's 0 to 0.25. That's a big difference. It's quite a bit, about a point. And in addition, very importantly, the Federal Reserve is going to be purchasing $500 billion of treasuries and $200 billion of mortgage-backed securities, and that number can increase. The head of Google, who's a great gentleman, called us, and he apologized. I don't know where the press got their fake news, but they got it someplace. But as you know, this is from Google. They put out a release, and you guys can figure it out yourselves and how that got out, and I'm sure you'll apologize. But it would be great if we could really give the news correctly. It would be so wonderful.
Yeah, Well, I think the president's doing as good a job as could be expected. I think he's appointed a team. You know, we talked about it back in January. He put together a coronavirus task force. And the one thing I'll keep saying is no matter what I'm thinking, no matter what I'm caring, seeing how people are in the community, when I see this guy, Anthony Fauci, speak, it makes me feel good that there's a plan. I think he is kind of hinting in all of his most recent speeches that he would like everyone to hunker down, he said. So people should be getting prepared to hunker down. I said, you know, going back a month or two ago, that if China took some other non-military response against the trade deals, now that they can't manipulate their currency, we should be prepared. People should have at least a month's worth of cash around the house, provision up with the essentials. And one way or another, whether it's man-made or not, it's happening. So stay prepared and stay ready like we do here all the time. And if you're an employee and you're still going to work, or you're an employer and your people are coming to work, or your people are staying home, there's all kinds of other confusions out there about who has rights, the employer, the employee. One of the best guys I know in this area comes on my show all the time. Today, he's afraid to come to the studio because he said I was going to give him the coronavirus. And Jonathan Bell joins us right now. He's a labor and employment attorney and founder of Bell Law Group. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great, John. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I was looking forward to you coming down here, but
I knew you were, John. So what I did in preparation for that is I'm drinking remotely. I'm having my liquid lunch.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
And I can tell you that given what's going on with the market and what's going on in our day and age, that could be a good way to handle it in the meantime.
No, there's no question about that. But JB, in all seriousness, across the country, there are all going to be all kinds of labor problems and workplace problems. What do people need to know? You're one of the best in the business. You had me captivated yesterday watching your Facebook Lives. You were great with the baseball hat and everything. What do people need to know?
Okay, I'm going to discuss with you the calls that I'm getting, why people are calling. My phones are ringing off the hook. I'm getting a lot of emails that vary from employees saying they don't want to go to work and their employer is forcing them to go to work. Do they have a right to stay home? And generally the answer is no. An employer could still, because we're not quarantined, could still demand an employee come to work. And if the employee refuses, they could be fired for that reason. Okay? Also on the employer side, I'm getting calls from my employer clients saying, hey, listen, someone came into work and they look sick. I don't want to violate any laws, but I want to get them out of here. What could I do? The answer is you can send an employee home and require them to get a test. What you cannot do as an employer is take out your thermometer and let me see if you have a fever. That violates the ADA and HIPAA. Now, let me ask you this, John. Let's say, for instance, Nico comes to you and says, hey, John, I was just diagnosed with corona. What do you do?
Crack open a Corona?
Well, not only do you send him home.
No, I gotta do a lot of things. I gotta immediately alert the rest of my staff. I gotta make them know that they have to get tested. I have to bring in a quality company like my friends over at the Mold Authority and have them make sure they wipe down, clean out, fumigate, disinfect, air freshen, quality control. And I got to make it a safe environment for them, I would think.
100%. Now, could you tell your staff, by the way, Nico was diagnosed with the corona?
I would assume that I should not share with the rest of the staff
100%.
if an employee were diagnosed.
I love it, John. Finally, you're listening to me. I love it. I can't believe it.
Well, it hasn't happened yet, but I'm thinking that I probably shouldn't share personal information like that about a person's medical condition with other employees and third parties.
100%. So now the next set of questions is, well, what am I doing? How do I get paid? Surprisingly, John, on the federal level, as we speak right now, there's no mandatory sick leave, although they're trying to pass it. But I'll tell you, what they're trying to pass is very inaccurate, not good enough, okay? What they're trying to pass is for 500 or more employees, if an employer has 500 more employees, they don't have to give anything. If it's 500 or less, then they'll give 10 days. If there's 50 or less employees, you could get some type of financial exemption. My understanding is over half of this country works for employers with more than 500 employees. So then you got to now nail down to the state and local level.
Yeah,
I know that you have a national audience here, but New York State doesn't have laws right now. They're trying to pass it. Fortunately, New York City, since 2014, does have some required paid sick leave laws, and Westchester adopted that about a year ago.
Well, look, at the end of all days, there should be some Equal Opportunity Act amendment that allows all people, all sexes, all races to get some kind of medical leave. I'm with you on that in the long run. But on this, what's happening right here, what about municipalities? And, what about the fact that 80% of the employees in America are technically employed by a small business owner? Those small businesses need the help more than the bigger guys. Do they have liability now if they don't fumigate their place right and they're still making their employees come in? Is there a problem there for employers?
Technically, John, if you're injured at work, your sole remedy is workers' compensation. But I imagine that the vast majority of these claims would be denied because you could get coronavirus anywhere. It's going to be hard to single out that it happened at work. But really, what I feel bad for is these small businesses are calling me and saying, listen, we want to take care of our employees. We do. But if I take care of my employees and close shop, I'm going to be bankrupt. I can't afford to do it. They have to get some relief. They have to, since they won't.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, JB. I think we lost his feed, but that's Jonathan Bell.
Get some tax exemption.
So yeah, I mean, and the president is talking about potential payroll tax cuts. I floated a plan to some of his chief economic advisors, like Stephen Moore, to maybe do a tax holiday for corporate taxes and payroll taxes till year end. Those would be quite stimulative. But we're going to take a quick break right now. JB, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Great show for you today. Fernando Uribe is going to be here in a little while. Sarah Azari. And Walker Bragman, good friend of the show, has an interesting story to tell himself about the coronavirus. All that and more coming up on Liquid Lunch right after this.